I know I've mentioned it, but I don't know if you remember. When I was growing up, I was a Boy Scout. That was something I did. I did Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And when I was in Boy Scouts, there was a guy in my patrol. Let me lay it out for you. In Cub Scouts, the whole group is called the pack. And each little group is called a den. A bunch of dens make up a pack. And in Boy Scouts, you have a troop. And the troop is made of a bunch of different patrols. Pack has den. Troop has patrols. And I was in the same patrol as this guy. See, when you were coming in the new class of scouts, I don't think that's what they called them, but the new group of scouts, we would all get assigned to different patrols. I happened to be in the new patrol. They created a patrol just for me. That's right. Well, in a way, I'm not really lying, because the group of us that joined was so large that they were like, oh, the amount of patrols we have isn't enough to accommodate for the new class. So they were like, we have to make a new patrol. And I got to be in the new patrol. And we went through a naming voting phase. And I remember I was voting to be the narwhals. And it ultimately came down to the narwhals or the duct tape patrol. And ultimately we did land on the duct tape patrol. And our patrol motto ended up being duct tape. We stick together. I won't be taking comments. It's just what happened. I'm recounting history. I'm not here to tell you if it was right or wrong. I'm just saying that the Civil War happened, okay? You can't say that I was at fault. It's just what happened. And in the duct tape patrol, I joined, like I said, with another guy that was in like the same class as me. We both joined at the same time. And we were the only two of my class that joined the duct tape patrol. It was me and this guy, Ben. And Ben and I, we became friends. And we became friends to the point that every camp out we would go on, we would always agree that, hey, let's tent together. Anytime you go camping in Boy Scouts, you have to share a tent with people. It's between 2 to 3 people. Sometimes if you got pretty feisty, you can go up to 4. But I would never do that to myself. That sounds like hell. So I would always elect to do a 2-person tent. And it was always me and Ben. We had like an unspoken agreement. We never really talked about it, but we knew if a camp out was coming up, we'd kind of look at each other like, hey, let's be in the same tent together. And why did we do this, right? There were over 100 people in this troop. You didn't just have to tent with someone in your patrol. You could go outside to other patrols and tent with them. So why did Ben and I pick each other? Again, 100 plus people, why us? Well, because it was easy. We would never make life hard for each other. We knew it. We knew that each of us was not going to fuck with the other one at night. Because sometimes you would hear it. You'd be sleeping in the middle of the night, and it's a 7-day camp out. You're at summer camp, and you hear some giggling from another tent, and you're like, oh, they're having fun. That tent's having fun. But then not seconds later, you would hear screaming, and you'd be like, oh, well, not everyone in that tent is having fun. Some of them are. It doesn't seem like the others are in on it. But with Ben and I, we knew that we would never do that to each other. We would never fuck with each other. We were just there to do the camp out and be done. We had fun. We had good talks at night. But we were respectful of each other. And I think that's what it was. We knew that we were the most normal people. You've known Boy Scouts, right? Like if you think about it, maybe you remember, oh yeah, that guy I grew up with. He was in Boy Scouts. The thing is, we don't have the same press as Girl Scouts. See, Girl Scouts have Girl Scout cookies, so you knew who the plug was. You had to. It was out of necessity. If I asked you, do you even know? Do you even know what Boy Scouts sold? Like Girl Scouts had cookies, right? What did Boy Scouts have? Any guesses? Yeah, probably not, right? But we had popcorn. Do you remember that? Do you ever remember young boys going door to door trying to sell popcorn? I do, because sometimes I had to try it. And let me tell you what, first-hand account, sales weren't really, sales weren't in the high numbers. We were like the last days of Blockbuster out there. Really nothing. Because no one needs popcorn. Why the hell do you need popcorn? And that's the thing. You're like, oh, popcorn? I love popcorn. I like movies. No, but we didn't just sell normal popcorn. Even if we did, it would have been so overpriced, there's no point. Just go to your grocery store, get Orville Redenbacher or whatever the fuck, right? No, we would sell you giant metal containers of like caramel corn and kettle corn, shit like that. We weren't selling you useful things. We were selling you niche things in bulk quantity. What the fuck kind of business model is that? But it was probably just a front so that other weird stuff could happen. So I don't think people were focused on popcorn. Like the committee that came up with the sales pitch, I don't think they were concerned about the product. I think they were concerned about what audience they were touching, if you know what I mean. It was a means to an end. That's all I'll say. But you would never know, right? Who's a Boy Scout? I went my whole childhood career without people knowing I was a Boy Scout. It was only until after, when you grow up and you have to do those games where it's like, say 3 fun facts about yourself. Only during icebreakers could I break that out and people were like, wait, really? I'm like, yeah, I've always been this way. I just haven't been out about it, They're like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you for telling us. I'm like, it's on my Instagram. You could have just checked. But you probably know, right? Some Boy Scouts were probably out growing up. And you know what they're like, right? A lot of them, again, I was a Boy Scout. And maybe I'm even included in the group I'm talking about. A lot of them are fucking weird. So the nice thing about Ben and I is that we both were like, hey, even if we are weird, let's not be weird with each other. Let's just keep a control variable so that this summer camp goes swimmingly. Okay? And I like that. It was a nice arrangement we had. And I was proud to call Ben my friend. But I haven't talked to Ben like over a decade. I don't even think I've seen Ben in over a decade. But I just saw on social media that Ben got married. Wow. Look at that. And it's weird. Yeah, I haven't seen him in over 10 years. We haven't talked in over 10 years. Yet I saw that and I was like, oh, that's nice. I'm happy for him. I don't think I'll ever talk to him for the rest of my life, for the rest of his life, for the rest of our lives. I don't think we'll ever talk to each other. Sure, I'll comment on some of his posts. He might comment on some of my posts. We'll like each other's posts. I don't think we'll see each other ever again. But during middle school and high school, without a doubt, anytime there was a camp out, I knew that I would be tent mates with him. And now, over a decade later, I see a picture of him being married. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But that doesn't make sense, right? We haven't talked to each other in over a decade. But that's what I've learned, is that there is one nice thing about getting older. I'm not old. I don't want to play that card of like, oh, I'm in my 20s, but shut up. No one wants to hear someone in their 20s be like, man, I'm getting up there. So I'm not old, but I am getting older. And the thing is, I feel like the press for Boy Scouts was bad. I feel like the press for getting older is bad. So let me hit you with some propaganda here. One nice thing about getting older is that you can have history with people. You can tell people like, oh, remember when? When you're younger, you can't say shit like that. Imagine being in 2nd grade and be like, remember the good old days? I'm like, that was last year, bud. In fact, it was the last school year, but it was earlier this year. You can't reminisce. And I'm not like a super sucker for nostalgia, but I'm a dum-dum. I'm a small lolly, a small sucker. I like to dip my toe in some nostalgia every now and then. So it is nice to be able to look at other people around this world and be like, oh my God, I've known you for a while. That's nice. That's a nice thing to have. And so you get these very specific feelings that you wouldn't even have the chance to have unless you have known people. And that's what I felt. I looked at Ben's picture and I was like, oh, they got married, him and his wife. And I was like, and I'm happy for him. All because we used to sleep together at camp in the same tent. You know what I'm saying? It's a married man. We can't make those jokes, people. High stakes environment. And it got me thinking, there's this quote I read recently, and it's a nice quote. Again, I don't want to get overly schmaltzy here, which is a bit redundant. But I read this quote, and I just want to share it with you. Is that cool? Okay, well, you said no very quickly. I feel like I didn't even ask the question by the time you said no. It's nice to hear you are listening because that was a quick response, but I'm going to read it anyways. Is that cool? So here's the quote. I read this. It's nice. Sometimes I sit and think about how we're all just walking our individual paths, but sometimes our paths align perfectly with someone else's, and you either walk the rest of your lives together, or it's just for a brief moment in time and you carry on. We're really all just walking each other home. Isn't that nice? That's how I felt about Ben. You know, sing Ben. Like I said, I don't think our paths are ever going to cross again. We follow each other on social media. I think we're Facebook friends even. But we walked with each other for a while. Good 6-7 years, and it's over now. And I look back fondly on that time. But it's over. And that's what's nice about life, right? That you get to walk with other people on your way home. And so there's no punchline. That's just like a nice thing that I wanted to share. Another thing that's nice is getting to eat. You know what's nice about eating? Let me lay this out for you. I talked about this like over a year ago. Why I like driving places. And I talked about this a couple weeks back, where when you drive a place, that's all you have to do. Like when you're driving to a place, your whole responsibility is getting to the place. So no one can be mad like, hey, you didn't respond to my text. I'm like, well, I was driving. Hey, you want to go do that? No, I'm driving to go do another thing. I'm busy. And I can't even look at my phone because I don't look at my phone on the road. And that's why I like driving so much. I went more into it in a past episode, but that's how I feel about eating too. And I know this can be chalked up to like, capitalism. It's fucking us. Except I don't really get what capitalism means. I know they like money. That's capital, right? And then ism. I don't know if I have some of that in me. But I like eating, I realized this week, because I get to eat, which is not even the highlight of it, but because I don't have to feel guilty about not working. And that's fucked. But I've noticed, and it's something I'll probably train myself out of, but I noticed that I love eating because while I'm eating, that's my whole job. I'm replenishing, right? No one can be like, hey, can you do this? Because no, I can't, because I'm a human. I have to eat. I'll get to it after lunch. Oh, okay. And I can't blame you. I can't be like, no, work on it now because you're eating, and I respect that. Some people don't respect it, and those people can fuck off. But most people, they'll be like, oh, you're eating? Okay. So just when you get done, if you could take a look at it, which is nice. And that's why I like eating. Not for the pleasure of eating, but because it's great cover to not do any fucking thing else. Which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. You should enjoy eating because it's eating. What's there to hate? But I like it because it gives me an excuse to just do that thing. To be present, essentially. Which is bad. But it's true. It's the main goal, and I shouldn't be doing anything else, and that's why it's awesome. Because when you're doing anything else, there could always be an argument of like, well, why aren't you doing this other thing? It's like, oh, fuck. But eating is necessary, so you have to do it. And that's why it's awesome. Same thing as driving. Same thing as being on like a plane. No one can be like, hey, why aren't you doing this thing? It's like, well, I'm on a flight somewhere. I talked about that a few weeks ago. And I realized eating's the same way, which is bad. It shouldn't be, but it is. And I've tricked myself in believing that Cliff Bars are healthy. Talking about eating. Cliff Bars aren't healthy, okay? They're not as bad as a candy bar, but still. They're not healthy. Like, you shouldn't be eating a bunch of them. But because they're the way they are, they're like an energy bar, right? Because of that packaging and what they are, I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're healthy. I feel good. I feel morally superior when I eat a Cliff Bar. Because I know it's like a vape. Because when I'm eating it, I'm like, well, at least I'm not eating a candy bar. At least I'm not smoking. That's what people with vapes say. They're like, well, it's not as bad as smoking. When I eat Cliff Bars, I say the same. Well, it's not a candy bar. Yeah, but it's still a Cliff Bar. What do you... And so they had good PR. Like I said, Boy Scouts, bad PR. Cliff Bars, good PR. Great packaging. I remember I saw this thing. Someone was like, oh, you take this very sugary drink or candy bar or something, and if you highlight certain ingredients and you make the packaging look a certain way, you can actually just be like, no, this is an energy bar or this is an energy drink that's good for you. I think Cliff Bars have done that. It's probably just a candy bar. It's a more boring candy bar. But their PR team doing great. Oh my God. So I thought about that this week too. I've convinced myself that Cliff Bars are healthy. Now I just have to convince myself that I can eat without feeling guilty. That's not normal. Like if you told young me, hey man, you like eating, right? It's gonna be like, yeah, but I don't do much of it. I'm like, I can tell. Fucking skin and bones on you. But you enjoy it just for what it is. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Older man that looks kind of like me, but not really. I'll be like, yeah. I like that you said older. Okay. A lot of perks to being older. But if I told younger me, like, oh, you're going to love eating because it means it's a break from everything else, I don't think younger me would get it. He'd be like, what do you mean? Isn't that crazy? See, when we were younger, summer break would happen and there would be a point, I don't know if everyone did this, but there would be a point in summer break where I'd be bored. I'd be like, can we go back to school? I've had enough of nothing. And now I crave nothing. I'm like, can I get like an ounce of nothing? It's nonstop. I thought about this. I was going to work on Friday. I was turning. It's not important. I was turning, taking a right. I was taking the right. And I thought, what is there to be excited about anymore? Not in a sad way. I'm just like, kids look forward to summer break, right? And then they get it into this big explosion of emotions. And then after a while, it's like, yeah, I've had enough of that. They allow themselves to be bored. Well, they don't have fucking control of anything. So things are set up to where they get bored after a while. I think that's how they convince teenagers to even go to school. Because on paper, that's fucking insane. Hey, teenagers, so full of energy and life, go to this place for 6 hours a day and then go home and spend like 4 to 5 hours doing work that full-time job told you to do. That's an awful gig. So how do we convince teenagers to do it? Well, we make it required by law. Yes. Okay. Good point. Great point. When you make things illegal, people are less inclined to do them. They still might, but they won't as easily. Or they'll just see it as a hurdle they need to jump over. Maybe there is incentive. They do it for the thrill. Someone that speeds just because they want a little hit of the bad boy life. But it's still like they're going 73 in a 65 and they're like, yeah, that's above the legal limit. That's the only reason we've convinced teenagers to go to school is because they get bored of doing nothing. Isn't that insane? You tell an adult, yeah, you don't have to do anything. Great. No one's happier than your unemployed friend at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. And yet there's fucking teenagers out there that are like, I'm tired of doing nothing. Can I do something? Hey. This is why I was always thinking it was crazy. I remember I would go to friends' houses. They didn't know I was there. I would just sneak in and steal their treats. It's my own little Goldilocks story. Now, I would go to friends' houses with permission, with their consent. They knew I was there because I was chipped. And I would follow my every move on their iPod at that point, their iPod Touch. We didn't have iPhones back then. Back in my day. I'm such an old 20-something. Yeah, shut up. I remember I would go to friends' houses and sometimes, the parents, the sentimental parents, They would come in, they'd be like, enjoy this. I'd be like, what? Like, what's so great about this? We're just playing video games and eating pizza, and nothing in my body hurts. I don't see what's so great about that, but I get it now. As kids, we were like, yeah, no, it sucks to be bored. But now as an adult, I'm like, I would kill for some of that. Kids, we didn't like fruit. We're like, yeah, fuck fruit. I'll take an Arizona iced tea. I've never really tried an Arizona iced tea. I know just a lot of my friends were drinking them. Now I'm like, oh yeah, fruit sounds great. You ever have a good watermelon? My favorite fruits, plums and cherries. You ever have a prime plum or a prime cherry? There's nothing that beats it. You get either of those fruits in their prime, put them up against anything, I'll take them. See, that's the thing. Bananas get so much hype because they're consistent. Bananas are the LeBron of the fruit world. They're reliable, they're always there, and they're going to put up great numbers. Okay? Cherries, it's a streaky shooter. Okay? Great in the summer. Sure. You know, you see those summer workout videos and you're like, man, they're putting in work. They're hitting all their shots. But then it's regular season, right? Fall, winter, spring, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Streaky shooter. Sometimes they have a good night, you know? Typically the ones overseas do better. But they're not reliable. Same thing with plums. Not reliable. But when you get a good one, ooh, a good one on a good night, But apples, bananas. That's why the Wiggles would sing about them, because they're consistent. An apple day keeps the doctor away. I think there's probably another fruit that's more effective. I think kiwis are probably more effective. And you're like, what the fuck did you just say, Gaurav? Did you say kiwi? Yeah. So this came to my attention a few months ago. I didn't know I did this. How do you say this fruit? Yeah, the little testicle, little fuzzy testicle that's green on the inside with seeds. Never thought about that. It's a little fuzzy brown thing with seeds inside. I'm not gonna say it, but you're educated, aren't you? I think there's an argument. The kiwis are better. Oh yeah, what was I saying? Apparently I say kiwi in a weird way. You're supposed to pronounce it kiwi. I say kiwi. I think kiwi is dumb. What, that's the most important fucking piss of the day? Is that what you want me to call it? Kiwi? That's what I do when I wake up, okay? It's the first thing I do. I go to the bathroom, I take a kiwi. Can't start my day without a kiwi. But I eat kiwis. I'm not going to say kiwi. That's fucking ridiculous. What are we doing? But yeah, as an adult, you appreciate things differently. I love a Cliff Bar. You give a kid a Cliff Bar? I remember I was a kid. I wrote Cliff Bars off when I was in high school. I tried one. I was like, no, thank you. This is that bullshit adults eat. This is like that fucking oatmeal shit, huh? Now I'm an adult. I eat that shit as a snack. And I still feel a little guilty. I've convinced myself they're healthy, but I'm still like, nope. Nope. This isn't spinach. So this is bad. You can't grow a Cliff Bar in a garden. So I feel bad. That's what being an adult is. If you can't grow something you're eating, you kind of feel a little bad. That's wrong. What the fuck happened when we became... what happened when we became adults? If we're not making money or eating something healthy, we feel bad about ourselves. And we feel so bad that they're like, here's a medicine to take so you don't feel bad. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I take that and I feel worse. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. I did some blood tests this week. Oh, do you think there's crypt tests? I don't know. I didn't even want to say it. But to be accommodating, do you think they have crypt tests? Fucking stupid. Why did I say it again? I didn't even like it the first time. I took a blood test this week and I didn't study. Went in, no prep. I did actually drink a lot of water because typically they have a hard time finding my veins when I do those things. I remember when I was in high school, I took Accutane. That's why this shit doesn't look like a minefield anymore. And when you're in Accutane, I think you're taking it for a few months, and every month you got to go in for a blood test so they can see. Hopefully this shit's not like killing you. I forgot what they tested, but that's probably the gist of it. And I remember they would always have trouble finding my veins. I remember one time they were like, "Can we get into your hand?" I was like, "I'm gonna leave. I don't care if Accutane is killing me. I'm gonna leave if you try to stab my hand. I'm not gonna have it." I didn't say that, but I was like, "Can we maybe get someone else to look at it? Maybe can we get a second opinion?" Which I know it seems reasonable from like a patient perspective. Could we maybe get someone else to take a look? But imagine being a doctor, because imagine you're at work and your customer, I know patients aren't customers. That could be a whole conversation right there. Like, oh, big pharmas, it's a fucking business. No, shut up. This isn't for that. This podcast is bullshit about bullshit. We're not going to talk about that stuff. But imagine you're working somewhere and the fucking customer is like, could I talk to someone else? That's what I'm doing. When I go to the doctor, I'm like, maybe I get a second opinion. I'm basically telling them to their face, I don't like working with you. Can I get someone else? But then tell me why the other person was able to find a vein, and not you. So one of us is wrong, and I'm, the customer. And you know what they say about those? But this time it was better. I drank enough water going in. The Accutane one is weird. I don't think you're supposed to drink water. I think they tell you it's a completely dry fast or whatever. Don't drink anything, don't eat. So that was tough. But when you drink water, it really shows your veins. And that's what this blood test was. But even so, I went in and the lady, wrapped the thing around my huge bicep. It looked like one of Saturn's rings, how big it was, because of, how big my arm is. You're not buying it. Okay. You're laughing, which is, I don't know why. Didn't say anything funny. I just said I have a planet-sized bicep. I don't know what's funny about that. But she wrapped the thing around. Don't know how she got it all the way around there. Sizes of a bull's. What? What did he just say? Size of a bull's head. This bicep. Oh, I can't even lift it. It's that heavy and sore because I work out so much. But she put the band around it, and then she was like flicking my arm. And I was like, don't. She's like, let's get this thing up, flicking it. And I was like, oh, this feels weird. This feels reminiscent. But she did flick my arm. The vein popped up a little bit. She punctured my skin, put the thing in there. And every time I do a fucking blood test, I swear to God, it feels like it's longer than last time. I don't know what. Maybe I should study, because every time it just takes longer. Because she sat that thing in there, and it was left in there for a while. Or maybe just time slowed down, Time flies when you're having fun. Well, what does it do when you're getting stabbed and sucked? Well, and I remember, I don't know the last time I've done a blood test. It was when I was doing Accutane probably. So it was in like middle of high school. Almost a decade ago. So she, the blood was coming out. And I start manually breathing. I go... And she goes, you okay? I go, yeah. I start laughing. And she's like, okay, good. And I thought about it. I was like, dude, if anyone saw me getting my blood drawn, my aura all the way down. That was the most fucking negative aura. And it got me thinking, aura is just ick. Is just the ick. Rebranded. Have you thought about that? People are now talking about aura. Ooh, plus 1,000 aura. Ooh, negative 1,000 aura. It's just the ick. If you say, oh, that dude that you just saw, he's got a negative 1,000 aura right there. That's just saying, oh, he gave me the ick. We're just rebrand. How many different ways are we going to say the same shit? It's all derivative of each other, isn't it? Like, remember, we used to have Riz, and then we went to getting the ick, and now we have aura. What are we going to start saying? Like, oh, that dude has a lot of charm. It's the same shit in a different way. No, but we're gamifying our life. That's why we say negative 1,000 aura, because it's kind of like a video game. Okay. So I think the next thing people are going to start saying is, oh man, that guy he's losing skill points in his charisma tree. See, this doesn't work because Riz, aura, ick, they're all just very punchy, one syllable words. We need something like that. We don't need anything, actually. I apologize. Let me take that back. Let me quickly take back what I just said. We don't need any of this shit. But it keeps rearing its head in different ways. Anyway, she takes the band off my arm. Don't know how she managed to. It was so big. Don't know how she found both ends because it's such a big bicep is what it is. You're still not buying it, which is weird to me because it's not a joke. Okay, it's just my truth. I'm telling it. I have big forearms. Nope. I mean, forearms is this part. Fuck. I can't even joke about being strong because I don't know what body parts are called. But she took that band off my arm and then she started squeezing my arm like it was a fucking tube of toothpaste. I was like, this is so this is so humiliating. And then she was like, yeah, make sure you apply pressure. So I walked out of that hospital just holding my arm like this. I was like, oh man. No aura. I gave a immunocompromised person the ick on the way out so bad it killed them. Am I right? What's this guy talking about? Anyways, the other day I learned that macaroni penguins are a real thing. Yeah. This is what a macaroni penguin looks like. And I looked at that and I was like, oh my god, wait a minute. I know that penguin. So I looked up Cody from Surf's Up. I was like, holy shit. Cody is a macaroni penguin. Why did no one tell me this? I thought Cody was just created in a way that, it looked like he had like blonde streaks in his hair. Like frosted tips. I didn't realize it was actually what those penguins look like. That's so cool. So yeah, now you know what macaroni penguins look like. That's what that, what is that one, what was that one, that one's Child's Tale? Yankee Doodle, right? Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony. Something, 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 some. And in his hat, macaroni. That shit. I think that's where the macaroni penguin come from. It looks like they have... I don't know what I'm saying. But talking about how, eating things and things not lasting forever, I realized something. I like, and this is not good for the environment. I get it. I think individual chip bags, like chips from the individual bags, taste better. Why is that? Are they made differently? I have heard theories that the Cheetos in those individual bags are like powdered more. They got that Colombian treatment, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that's true, but I did think about it. I'm like, why is it that when I make a sandwich for lunch and I break out one of those bags, I'm not buying them, but sometimes, you go to work and sometimes people are like, oh yeah, grab a bag if you want it. So I'll take a bag home. And then later when I have a sandwich, I prep a sandwich for lunch and I go to that bag of Doritos, that bag of Cheetos, the bag of Frito-Lays, which are underrated, by the way. So I fucking love Fritos. Bangers. Anyways, I feel like chips from those individual bags taste better. And I was like, why is that? And I think I got it. My theory is that there's a finite amount of chips in that bag. When you're ripping into a family bag, it's basically like it's bottomless, okay? You're at Red Robin. There's no end to these chips. They'll keep bringing them out. That's how it feels to eat a family bag. I know there's probably some fucking genius jokester that's about to say, oh, actually for me, that's a individually sized bag, the family bag. That's like, I can eat that in one sit. Shut up. Not like anything I've said is clever or equally, if not worse, in terms of cringe, but just save it. Okay, save us all the time and energy of reading that. I'm all about silencing people. That's my thing. I just feel like there's only so much airtime and I just need all of it. So I can't have you talking because it's taking away from me. But I like individual chip bags because it's a reminder that things don't last forever. When you're eating out of a family sized bag, you're like, yeah, just you're giving into gluttony. I don't even really. What's the denotation of gluttony? I don't know. But you're very, you know, you're eating to no end. Whereas a chip bag, you're being economical, right? You know exactly how many chips there are. You know how many bites it's going to take you to finish this sandwich. You kind of have to ration things accordingly. You can't just eat a bite of sandwich and eat 7 chips. You have to eat a bite of sandwich, eat 2 chips, then kind of evaluate, okay, how many chips are there? And I like that. And that's kind of like the argument around, home, death. Is it that's why death has to exist, so we appreciate life? That's not. I don't think the board pitched it that way. Like in the postmortem, I don't know if that's how they're going to talk about it, but that's the meaning that we've given it. That's like one of the nice silver linings of death, is it makes you appreciate life so much more. And that's how I feel about an individual bag of chips. You appreciate it so much more because you know it will be over soon. And so really every chip, you enjoy that much more. And I like that. Again, they might be powdered more. The Doritos, they might have a little kick to them. The Cheetos, they might be a little more dusted up. Like some old tome sitting upon a library. But I think there's also probably the psychological thing of it, where it's like, yeah, this is going to be over soon. So I really am going to enjoy every single piece of it that much more. And that's what, I draw a parallel between chips and people, where it's like you won't know everyone forever. So I think it allows me to be a little more present and appreciate the people while I have them. Just like I love a good Frito, Because I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to hit the bottom of people's bags. I didn't know the last time I was going to talk to Ben. But it happened, and I didn't know it was happening, and I'm glad I didn't. Because if I knew the last time I talked to Ben, I don't think I would have enjoyed it. Because I would have just kept thinking about like, oh, fuck, this is going to end. But I enjoy the chips. I enjoy the chips because I know they're going to end, because I know. And so if I can appreciate chips in a bag, I just need to find a way to do that with people. Be present with them. Because you don't know when you're just going to be scratching at those crumbs at the bottom, and then you're going to straighten out the bottom of the bag and start, people always do that thing. They straighten the bottom of the bag so it creates like a slope for those little crumbs to bobsled into your fucking esophagus. So yes, I will proceed with my life using the chip theory. And the chip theory is that you must appreciate all interactions with people, because you don't know when it'll be the last crunch with them, huh? Yeah, call that crunch time. That's where it comes from. The last moments with someone. That's crunch time, baby. The fourth quarter. Treat every interaction. Why do we protect the Rock in the fourth quarter so hard, but we play the sloppy 3 quarters? Gotta treat everyone like you're with them in the fourth quarter. Anyways, you got to make big shots in the fourth quarter. So make sure you make big shots on this podcast and like it. Like this episode. Make sure you leave a comment. You guys left a lot of comments on the last one. Thank you so much. That's big. Big on ya, eh? And I will talk at you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Okay?